In his video today, the former governor of Wisconsin fact-checks CNN to their face. And the Ontario Premier, Doug Ford, he now wants to remove tariffs from America. And Democrats are still crying about President Trump deporting illegal migrants. But where we're first going to start is this nice message from Jasmine Crockett to people like you and me.
I want y'all to know that, like, MAGA just, there's nothing that I could ever say or do that would make MAGA be like, that's our girl, right? Because, like, first of all, ton of racist. So never happening, right? But you have to understand that, number one, they want to distract from all the disastrous things that they're doing, while literally they are risking all of our security. Not the security of Democrats, not the security of independents, but they are risking the security of all of us in so many ways.
Okay, well, according to the leader of the Democrats, Jasmine Crockett believes you, me, and everyone else who supports Trump in some fashion, that we are racist, okay? That's the first thing. Secondly, that President Trump has been compromising our security as a nation. Now, I suppose she has forgotten the disastrous administration from Joe Biden, who let in over 10 million illegals into this country and definitely compromised our security. But you know what? I wouldn't expect anything less from her. And that type of mindset takes us to this first story, where CNN is continuing to push lies about Elon Musk right after the election last night. And let me just say it didn't go well for them, because the former governor of Wisconsin had to fact check Abby Phillips to her face.
He came to the state. He talked about cutting Medicaid, Social Security through DOGE, bringing those issues up.
Actually, he never talked. He explicitly said in Green Bay that he would not cut Social Security.
Well,
that's exactly what he said.
Talked at his rallies.
No, other people said about that, but I was there. I watched him. Okay. He did not say he was going to cut Medicaid.
Other people at his rallies who work for DOGE, who work for Elon Musk's organization, talked about those issues.
No, I was at the rally. Not a one of them said that. That's what protesters said, but nobody there actually said that.
Do you think that there are risks here?
There are. People believe the lies that people are saying about that. But that's not at all what they said. If people believe that Medicaid and Medicare is going to be touched, that's just a flat, outright lie. What he talked about are people who are over 120 years old, who clearly are not alive,
the reason I brought it up is
Social Security or Medicare.
Okay, well,
so if you paid attention there, it went from Elon Musk is saying that he's going to cut Medicare and Medicaid and Social Security to, well, people that work for him said that. And the fact of the matter here, ladies and gentlemen, this is propaganda, obviously getting debunked live in front of everybody. And it's just sad, because this is why mainstream media has lost all credibility. It's okay to criticize Elon Musk and the way he's gone about this. That's fine. Everybody has their own way of getting this done. But to just come out and say that he said something when clearly there's no video footage to support that claim, it's just an outright lie.
That's totally wrong.
Just to sort this out, the reason I brought this up is because the claim here is that there's massive widespread fraud and that's all they're addressing. That's obviously a disputed claim, because it's not true that 120-year-old people are getting Social Security checks. The checks stop at a certain point automatically, because those checks and balances
Social Security numbers get.
Now, of course, we have some receipts to show you, and I want you to think about this as I go through this. If we already know we're in $36 trillion in debt, we know that the entitlement programs represents at least 50% of that. Wouldn't it make sense to go into these entitlement programs and root out improper payments, also known as fraud, waste, and abuse? I'm just saying. Now, this is from the Government Accountability Office. As of 2024, this was posted in August of last year. It says this: the Department of Health and Human Services estimated a combined total of $100 billion in improper payments in the Medicare and Medicaid programs in FY 2023. This represents 43% of the government-wide total of estimated improper payments that agencies reported for that year. Now, if we head over to epicforamerica.org, they have been tracking improper payments for Medicaid. Now, it was reported to be $543 billion over the past decade. They are now coming out, and this is as of March 3rd of this year, $1.1 trillion in improper payments, all based on a simple change from the Obama administration. And that change is that Obama halted Medicaid's ability to review eligibility requirements, meaning they're not even verifying if someone's actually eligible for Medicaid. So that's why the improper payments, if you're factoring that in, has been over $1 trillion over the past decade. Now, Antonio Garcia is the guy who's really getting attention because he's the one that really uncovered the scam that's happening within Social Security. Take a look at what he said this morning.
That's a jaw-dropping number. Where did all those people come from?
Well, it made my jaw drop too when I saw it. We were in Social Security looking for fraud, waste, and abuse. And to do that, we actually looked at the enumeration system, the system by which people get numbers in America. And we found that there were just about 5+ million of them that came to the country as illegals, were giving various forms of parole or allowed in the country, and they got through an automatic system, Social Security numbers, so they get into our benefit systems. And we tracked that through and found that they were on the benefit programs. And just because we were curious, we then looked to see if they were on the voter rolls. And we found in a handful of cooperative states that there were thousands of them on the voter rolls and that many of them had voted.
That's crazy because you cannot vote in a federal election, but I think in certain local elections you can. But, once you get a Social Security number, that helps you do a lot of stuff.
Now, I already know, and you know it too, that Democrats will come back and say, well, that's not true. Show us the proof. Even if we show them the receipts, they're not going to accept it. And this brings me to the main point, is that Democrats are making the wrong argument. They should not be fighting against the idea that there is fraud, waste, and abuse in the federal government. They really shouldn't even be wasting their time arguing about to what degree does this fraud, waste, and abuse exist. What they should be arguing is, hey, what is the solution to make sure this doesn't happen again? And how do we continue to protect the people who are authorized to receive these benefits? It's interesting how senior citizens every day get scammed. They have nothing to say. But now DOJ, who's really trying to change the system for the better, they're crying about the entire process.
I know, Antonio, part of this started with a program from, I think, 2017 that got started, where if people came into the country and they were authorized to work, they would automatically give them a number. But, Elon was talking a little bit about how 400,000 Social Security numbers were stolen. It was one person. What can you tell us about that?
That's an ongoing investigation, so I don't know how much I can tell you, but we did find as we looked through the programs, a particular employee that had actually sent themselves Social Security numbers through their email for reasons we don't understand, but clearly nefarious.
Yeah, it does sound like it. So let me ask you this, Antonio. Have you figured out, you saw these millions of people, non-citizens, on the Social Security rolls. Did they get benefits?
Yes, we actually tracked them through the benefit programs. We found them in virtually all the benefit programs. And one statistic for you is we found 1.3 million of them on Medicare.
Wow.
Okay, so before we go to the next story, I just have to say this. This type of fraud, waste, and abuse is a financial problem for our country. But what's even worse is when you yourself are experiencing financial problems, which brings me to the sponsor of this video today. Look, I don't know what your exact situation is, but if you're like the thousands of homeowners American Financing talks to every month, then you might be struggling to keep up, barely making ends meet, drowning in high interest debt. Understand this, it's not your fault. And also, if you're still carrying around credit card balances with 20% plus interest rates while your mortgage is still untouched, you're ignoring the one thing that could turn it all around. It's your home. And that is where American Financing can help. Would you trade 10 minutes for a shot at saving an average of $800 every single month? Because that's exactly what homeowners are doing when they call American Financing. It's a simple, no obligation call that could change everything. They have a team of salary-based mortgage consultants, so there isn't any incentive to put you into a loan that doesn't make sense. And there are no upfront fees to find out how much you can save. So don't wait. Call American Financing today and start feeling that relief. That is 866-890-9392. Again, that's 866-890-9392, or go to americanfinancing.net/divorce. Now, this takes us to our second story, and that is Liberation Day. President Trump will be implementing tariffs today. The question is, what type of tariffs? Reciprocal tariffs, a flat tariff on everyone? Who exactly? He's supposed to specify that today in a press conference, okay? But Canada is already getting ahead of it. Doug Ford, the premier of Ontario, who's gotten tough with his language here or there, has come out today and stated that he's actually willing to remove all tariffs from America as long as America is willing to remove tariffs from them.
Let's sit down and discuss this, because it's just going to hurt American jobs. I can't stress it enough. And, again, he believes he's supporting Americans. He said he was going to create jobs, create wealth, reduce inflation. It's worked the total opposite. Inflation.
But do you think it's fair that you have tariffs on a whole number of products?
That's right. And we'd be willing to take those off tomorrow if he took all the tariffs off. We are not the problem, Andrew. Do you know the problem is? China's the problem.
I just want to go back for a moment. If, in fact, you're prepared to take your tariffs off, why wouldn't you have that negotiation and that conversation now before any tariffs get put in place?
Well, we've had this conversation for over the last month. We don't want tariffs. We have another $65 billion worth of tariffs to launch today. That's the last thing we want to do.
Now, Doug Ford makes a great point about China, and I think it's something that we don't talk about enough. I mean, I do find it interesting how China literally backs up our economy. But this is supposed to be a communist country that American ideals don't support. So why are we in bed with China in that way? Oh, I know why. Because the people in Washington sold us out for money. But hey, that's a whole nother situation, right? Now, secondly, President Trump has been consistent on this for decades. We can go all the way back to the 80s where he's talking about tariffs. Okay, so if I was in Canada's shoes, what Doug Ford just said is exactly what they should have been saying from day one. Now, when we think about what the media is up to today, it's the same old scare tactics, right? They are trying to focus on the emotional side of this debate and, tugging on people's heartstrings. And now they're getting a little snarky with their questioning. Take a look at this exchange between Byron Donalds and CNN.
Are you okay, though, with people feeling pain? They voted Donald Trump in because they were tired of dealing with the inflation that was there during the Biden administration. Are you okay with your constituents feeling more pressure and more pain when it comes to the economy as these tariffs are put in place and then the retaliatory tariffs are also put in place? Are you okay with pain being on their shoulders for a while as this all gets worked out?
Nobody wants pain for their constituents. I don't want pain for the people of Florida.
But Donald Trump said there will be some pain and disruptions.
Hold on. But you are making an assumption without knowing the details.
I'm not making the assumption. Donald Trump himself said there was pain and disruption that was going to happen.
You're making an assumption. You are making an assumption, an economic assumption right now. Let's be very clear. The real pain economically has been the massive inflation coming from bloated overspending here in Washington, D.C. That is the real pain that the American people have felt the last 4 years.
Now, let's just do a quick comparison. April 1st, 2024 to March of 2025. Has there been a significant difference or increase? Because that's the way that the media is framing this. Hey, Trump is causing economic pain with his tariffs. Prices are skyrocketing. Well, let's just look at what the numbers say. If we look at fuel, last year it was $3.61 per gallon. Now it's $3.08. If we look at eggs, last year it was $4.38. Right now it's $4.90. So that's not really a massive increase. Now we know it got up to somewhere around $6, $7 back in January of this year, and it has absolutely nosedived. Now, let's look at milk, $3.98, $4.03. I guess rent has come down slightly by 1%. Mortgage rates have come down, looks like by 0.4% or 0.3. And electricity prices has decreased as well by 36.2%. So even if they made the argument that Trump has caused prices to increase, I mean, the prices are, minimal at best.
I think that what we're going to hear is a lot about this idea of reciprocal tariffs, as you just mentioned, the idea that, the United States does have the lowest tariffs virtually in the world. Mm-hmm. And as Trump has been saying, that these other countries are ripping us off. They're not playing by the rules of the game. It's not a level playing field. And, I'm a free trade guy. I believe it's beneficial to the world to lower tariffs as much as possible. If Trump's policies work out here, I do believe at the end of the day that there will be a lowering of tariffs around the world. Our tariffs are about 3 or 4 or 5%, and many other countries are above 20%. And so that just is something we can't live with. And at the end of the day, this could be a liberation from those high tariffs that these other countries are charging American-made, whether it's cars or whether it's our manufactured items or whether it's technology. It simply isn't a fair trading system right now.
Listen, the numbers don't lie. The tariffs that we place on other countries is nothing in comparison to what they place on us. They know that. Democrats know that. The media knows that. But they refuse to talk about it because, again, they want to control the narrative for political gain. And I'm going to show you an example here. Here is the Democratic leadership going back to what they always do, which is to claim that this is going to hurt Americans. Take a look.
The worst thing about it is that it so hurts American families. It is estimated that the average American family will pay more than $5,000 out of their pocket to pay for these tariffs. These tariffs will cost them $5,000 as the prices of everything goes up, whether it's groceries or cars or wood or you name it, across the board. Why would Trump do this? Why would Trump do this? One reason: he wants to take the money that he gains from tariffs to give tax cuts to billionaires. And when told that American families would pay a whole lot more out of their pockets, you know what he said? I don't care.
Now, I wish Chuck Schumer would just tell the truth, and that is that in the Biden administration, under his leadership in Congress, it was Wall Street who saw their wealth increase. And what happened to Main Street? They lost out on their wealth. So he can go up there and he can keep saying how Trump and the tariffs are going to hurt American families. They already hurt American families. And that is the actual truth. All right, so now let's move to our third story, and that is President Trump continues to deport people out of this country. And Democrats and media is continuing to question every single deportation. They have gotten to the point where they no longer believe that these people should be deported. But now, even if they do have the evidence that shows why they should be deported, they don't believe these individuals should end up in a prison in El Salvador. Take a look at this.
And we already know that there is a Republican hand-picked Trump supermajority on the Supreme Court. So what do you think they're going to do when it comes to some of these deportations, when it comes to hurting students, and when it comes to deporting alleged gang members, right? And I say, again, alleged, because there has been no due process determination about their status. And just to slightly push back on Mark, even if you tell me that, and you prove that they're gang members, I'm not so sure that I'm okay with them being sent off to be tortured in a foreign country, but I'll leave that aside.
So let me make it clear on what the actual debate is. From the Democrats' perspective, they're crying about due process and that no matter if the guy is a rapist, a murderer, they don't care who they are, every single person deserves due process. They should be able to go in front of a judge and plead their case. From the Republicans' point of view, wait a minute, what are you talking about due process? The last president allowed these murderers, these criminals, these rapists to come into the country illegally. You guys didn't exercise due process then, so why are we going to exercise due process now? Again, that's really the debate here, and it also led to this heated exchange on CNN last night.
Here illegally. I know you've been trying to get in.
And they're being released back onto the streets.
That's not
gaslighting. That's a fact.
This administration has
Lincoln Riley. That's gaslighting.
Go ahead.
This administration has been drifting towards authoritarianism, similar to the disappearance of people who the regimes in Cuba and Nicaragua and Venezuela disagree with, because they're rounding people up and sending them to prisons in foreign countries with no due process.
Okay.
Yeah. So listen, there's no convincing Democrats. They forget about the last, 5 years or 4 years rather. They don't believe anything went wrong. They don't believe President Biden broke any laws and he had the authority to allow a mass invasion into our country. And now they're losing it because President Trump is actually exercising his authority to secure our country and to send people who don't belong here back to where they came from, of course. And this leads me to the question of this video. What do you think about the media continue to fail as pertains to fact checking? They are supposed to report the facts. I showed you last night where Jessica from Fox News utterly failed. And then in this video, I showed you Abby Phillips right there to her face, the former governor of Wisconsin, clearly telling her, no, Elon Musk never said that. And then she started moving the goalposts. I want to know what your guys' reaction to that exchange in the comment section below. Now, it's no secret that you already know what the election results are from Wisconsin from last night, but did you check out the exchange between Elon Musk and Fox News that led to Jessica getting fact-checked to her face? If you missed out on that video, more stories from yesterday All you have to do is click on it because it's coming up right now.